Good evening, folks. Hope you're all having a good evening. 35th birthday today. Feel like I'm a lot older than that most days. Not so much physically, but mentally. Hope you're all having a good day. Happy Tuesday. I don't have a whole lot planned for this evening, but I wasn't very active yesterday or really the day before. And we've got some good momentum going here, so I didn't want to ruin our momentum. And we had trouble both episodes. We had trouble playing the video that I really wanted to play, Jordan Maxwell video. We were having audio issues, no matter what I tried to do with it. So I am still working on that video, but as I mentioned in the caption above, I'm yet to post all of the links for episode 1, episode 2 in the comments, which I'm going to do tonight after I'm done this. And I'm going to post that video in there. So those of you who want to just go ahead and watch that one, go right ahead. I'm still going to try to get it on one of our next episodes because I'd like to have it on our content. But I am going to have that in the comments for you so that you can take it upon yourself to watch it if you wish to. I haven't been thank you very much, Lori. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate you. I hope you had a good day. I haven't been doing a whole lot of research the last couple of days. I've been kind of getting back into the ancestry a little bit, and I'll be honest, I've been struggling the last couple of days, but I'm doing a lot better today. Happy birthday. Thank you, Rob Van Freedom. Much love, brother. Much love. Yeah, so I really I've been really, it's a good way to explain. I've been a space cadet the last couple of days. I've really just been kind of not trying to force anything and just try to be at peace. And it worked because I was able to get up today and enjoy my day. This is always, I know it's a weird thing to say, but I always dread my birthday because when I turned 17, my grandmother died on my birthday, and it was a big shock. She was a very healthy lady, but she was on too many prescriptions, like way too many, and she had a stone built in her liver, and I think she was born in 44 and died in 07. So what's that? That's 56. Yeah, she was just early 60s. So she was a pretty young lady, and my grandfather was quite a bit older than her, almost 20 years older. And not that you ever really plan, but, you know, I think everybody, including my grandfather, always assumed that he would be the first to go, being that much older than her. And it was really it really changed my life. It was not something I was able to recover from. I dropped out of high school not long after and went to the oil field and stopped playing hockey. And it was, so you're 83. No, I'm not. I am not. I am 35 today. 35 today. And it's been a pretty good day. It's for all the flashbacks and memories that I get. I know that she wouldn't want me to dwell, but it's not easy because she was kind of the glue of our family, and things were never the same after that. She was a deaf woman who was a full-time stay-at-home mom, and she was amazing at that job. So we kind of lost the glue then. So I never had the same relationship with my grandfather, and not to get too personal, but I like most of you. I have a personal relationship by now. I know we're gaining new followers, which is really nice. But I don't mind opening up because a lot of you I consider a family, especially some of you, and you know that was a life-changing event for our whole family, but it really shook me. And I remember if I could get over this one part, I could probably get over it all. And hopefully I've realized that in the last couple of days, so I'm really going to try to do that this year. But when we were, there was a 2-day wake, and at the end of it, I said to Grampy, all right, let's go, let's go home. And all he said was, I was supposed to die first. And what do you say to that, right? So I was just like, well, you didn't. Let's go. So that was something we never really recovered from. And, it's when these things come back around, you understand the trauma more and more every time it does. And many of us have dealt with a ton of trauma. And I truly believe that's why we're able to see through the bullshit. And that's why we're able to have empathy and relate to things in ways that the masses can't, that's one of the most obvious things. My meeting people at the convoy and through the movement is one of the most common things I noticed, is that you rarely met somebody who was a spoon-fed, spoiled individual. It was always people who had, learned things the hard way, been through tough times. Not that I had a great upbringing compared to many in this world. I'm not complaining by any means, but there was a lot of traumatic events like the one I just described. And I met many other people whom we were able to relate on that level. And I truly believe that's why we're able to see through the bullshit. So that's my blab story for today. I don't have a whole lot else to touch on, like I said, because I haven't been, I've kind of shut off from the news. I don't like to call it the news because I don't watch the news, but it is news, whether it's on the mainstream media or not, whether it's us bringing it to you or somebody else, it's news. But I hate to call it the news because then people think of what we've been taught is the news. But I haven't been following the events of the world the past couple of days, other than obviously Mr. Carney. And it was interesting when I was at dinner. I asked my aunt, I said, do you have a bill? And she was like, why? Because we were talking about Carney. And I showed her on the bill. I said, look, that's how much power that man has had for a long time. That man doesn't work for the Corporation of Canada. He works for the Crown. And if you take a little dive down what Mark Carney has been responsible for in Europe, in Great Britain, he has completely obliterated that sovereign nation. And just while I'm on that topic, it's important that people understand our parliament is a fake thing, but it holds power through the Corporation of Canada. So, for instance, the treaties that were signed long before Canada was ever a thought, well, that fight, like the natives, for instance, if the natives wanted to really take their fight and uphold their treaty, the Parliament is not who they do it with. It's the Lord High Chancellor and the High Court of England. The High Court of England, the sovereign nation of England, is what signed that treaty. The Corporation of Canada is not allowed to sign a treaty that is recognized by international court because they're not a sovereign nation. And that's a very important thing for people to understand. Only a sovereign nation signing a treaty for that treaty to be recognized on an international court level. So when you see these self-government fake treaties like the Haida Nation have signed, these, I'm trying to think of what they're calling them. It's not self-governance. They think they're resulting in self-governance because of it. I'll try to think of the term while the video is playing, but the Corporation of Canada is doing up these documents and having these sovereign native tribes sign them, but really they're signing their treaty away because they're signing a fraudulent treaty with the Corporation of Canada. The Corporation of Canada has no business signing a treaty. So when that sovereign nation, who's already sovereign and protected by their treaty with the sovereign nation of England, long before Canada was a thought, when that sovereign native tribe signs that document with the Corporation of Canada, what is happening is they're voiding the real treaty. It's a trap. And that's why UNDRIP is called, by people like me, a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's very sad to watch. It's a master deceit. But yeah, so that's my rambling for today. But yeah, Mark Carney. He's I refer to him as the accountant of the crown. He's not the crown's accountant, but the position he's had in the crown, he might as well be their accountant. He's in charge of what happens financially. So when people say, "Oh, he's the he's the new prime minister now," well, he holds a lot more power than that in his back pocket because of his status with the crown. Mark Carney, in my opinion, will have more power as prime minister than anybody as a corporation prime minister ever has because of his standing with the crown. And, you know, you can bring in all the Epstein stuff and all that, but that you know, we know these people are evil wrongdoers. What I care about is the power they hold now. And when the crown puts their glory boy in charge of one of their colonies, because that's what Canada is. It's Corporation of Canada. It's a colony of Britain. When the crown puts one of their glory boys in charge of a colony, something's about to happen. So just be prepared. Like I've been trying to say for a while here, and I know most of you agree and you're pushing the same messages. This isn't about the new prime minister. This is about a crown-appointed individual who holds more power than a prime minister we've seen in our lifetimes. He's now in control of this corporation, and he's moved all his businesses to the United States before becoming prime minister. So we already know he's in bed with Trump and the One World Order, the North American Union. So I don't think it's going to take very long for things to get real interesting here. My Oma was the glue, gone, and family has fallen apart. I'm sorry to hear that, bro, because I feel every word of that. It's, you know, I barely even stayed the night here. I think once or twice stayed the night here with Grampy after Grammy died. It was just, you know, I don't want to say it was awkward because it wasn't awkward, but when that glue's gone, it's different, right? Friends got a thumbs up. It's all propaganda. That's right. Master of disaster. I like that. 2030 plan. Yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am. Sorry, friend. I didn't read who commented. Happy birthday. I got the pasties here. My apologies. Get my lipstick in my teeth. He can't not be PM. He was not elected in. He can't sit in the parliament. So if we go by the fraudulent rules, because it's all a fraud, because that's how fraud works. So any fraud after the initial fraud is all fraud, because you've always, it's like reality and not reality. Once you enter into not reality, it's not reality. You can't have both. So the Corporation of Canada's system, the Parliament, is not real. The only reason we think it is because that's what we allow it to happen. The Crown, the Parliament, is actually not in place at all, and I'll show you something here. So I posted. You're gonna be a little blurred, but there's a whole wall of stuff here, and a lot of it has to do with Native treaty rights. But we go back to like the BNA Act and Canada's Constitution Indian Act 1876. So when they were implementing these things, they knew what they were doing. They know it's fraud, but a lie that's believed by the masses is only a lie to those who know it's a lie. So he was not elected in. I agree, 110%. I didn't vote for him. Nobody did. But what they're showing, they're literally, everything we've preached about the fraud, everything we've preached about the birth certificate, they're showing us right now that they hold the power in the system. They're literally just proved to everybody that the rules don't matter. They make the rules. So it triggers me in a way when I see people saying Canada needs to remain a sovereign nation. Canada's not a sovereign nation. That's why they're able to do the things to us that they're doing right now. What we need to do is become a sovereign nation free of the crown. And it's a lot. I said it in the group chat today. And I've said it for a while when we were pushing the 2-row, which I still believe in that flag very much. But I'm going to be brutally honest here is what is happening, because the natives are uniting. I'm in a few native groups, Anishinaabe movement for one. The natives in Canada are uniting their tribes. However, they're about 20 years too late, because unless the natives and Canadians come together, it's already too late, because it's a global agenda. The natives are uniting, and they're talking about the right things. They're talking about the treaties. They're talking about the BNA Act. It's all coming to fruition. But here's the issue: is they're fighting for themselves. And what people don't realize, I'll take your comment down there because I'm done talking about that. And I'll get to the rest here in a second. The ironic and sad thing right now that is happening is that we're watching a rise in the native culture, and it's beautiful to see, because they're coming together, and they're coming together with the facts based on the treaty and all these acts and the Queen's Bargain, the white paper. This is all very important stuff on an international court level, but they're taking their fight to the Corporation of Canada. And the natives have the treaty, we have the numbers. And ironically, Mother Earth and Creator have put us in a position where we have to reconcile, or else we're all doomed. The natives can rise all they want and prove the treaty all they want. They're severely outnumbered, and this is a global agenda. If it was 20 years ago, it would be a different story. I am not taking anything away from what they're doing. Keep fucking going. Keep going. But until they realize that they need our numbers, and until we realize that we need their treaty, this is where we'll sit. And that's a fact. That's a fact. That's what it is. So I'm going to continue on with the video. Marsha, I'll send you a message. Deem Thibodaux free of Federation. That's right, man. I don't think they let that happen unless we make a real stand. That's it. And it has to be together. It has to be the treaty people with the Canadians. And because we're all, and I hope no natives get upset when they hear this, we're all treaty people. Okay? And whether or not you are blood tied to that treaty, you were born on this land. So if you scratch your birth certificate and become a free person, you are part of the land. You are a free person able to roam the land. So I'm not going to go into that too much further. But those are the facts of the situation. And this exiting into the 51st state, all that's doing is speeding up the North American Union. There's so much divide. There's so many different things. And look how divided it is, right? You know, it's crazy. So I'm going to start the video, and that'll be that. Hopefully. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up on the sound, please. I really hope it's working. I'm going to be really frustrated.
It was the only thing I was saying is that was very interesting.
Okay, I just want to answer one comment before we go. Yay sound. That's good. Okay, now I can answer this comment in a lot better mood too. Thank you, Lori. Is that what the power shift is trying to do? I do not take my words as me speaking on the power shift. Do not take my words as me being against the power shift either. You want an honest answer, I'm going to give you an honest answer, but don't mix up my words and make something out of it. I will be honest with you no matter what you ask me, but don't mistake what I'm about to say. What the power shift is doing is a great thing. But unless what I just said happens, it doesn't matter. Because right now, the power shift is a registered corporation to the corporation. So unless you have treaty people leading that, you're still understanding under the corporation. That's why it's a hard thing. Like, there's bigger fish to fry in our world, but that's why in proper English that we haven't been taught, you understand things, because your inner self acknowledges that knowledge. When you say I'm understanding, like say if I am saying I understand you, Rob, I am saying out loud that I am standing under Rob. I am admitting I am under you. And people might say that's not a big deal, but it is, because sound is frequency. Frequency is everything. So they've turned this English language all around. It's like that definition video that I put on like last week or whenever it was. Definition, but it's definition. We are deaf to the Phoenician language, which is Hebrew, which was translated the Bible into English, but they translated the Bible in their way, in the way they wanted us to interpret it. They didn't give us the answers. So it's that's your legalese, right? It's like when you go into the court, that's where your legalese, your proper legalese English comes into play. And I am no master of that realm by any means. I know what it is enough to give you a proper short explanation like that, but don't ask me to give you a course on legalese. I hope to someday, but that's that. So we have sound. I'm going to get to it here, and then I'm going to shut the live off after this. It's 30 minutes long, and that's that. Thank you all for wishing a happy birthday. I will be in the comments. This is a lot. He's going to go into the history and who these people are, but he's also going to refer to a lot of what we talked about in the last. We've been on here for 22 minutes already, just blabbing. All right, much love. Let's get this started.
Because I remember that night he talked about the European Masonic orders and how the Mexican gangs in Los Angeles and around the country use Masonic symbols from a particular Masonic order in Europe, while the black gangs use an opposing symbols in terms and symbols of a different Masonic order in Europe. And that most likely the gang members themselves do not realize that these are actually can be traced back to Masonic symbols in Europe. And so I believe that the gangs going on in America today are being organized, directed, and financed out of Europe to destroy our culture in America. I think that European Freemasonry is heavily involved in destroying America. And you need to understand the whole story about how America was founded and how it was founded as a corporation. It's a privately owned corporation. We can, talk about that for days on end. And this is just my opinion, one man's opinion. But I'm going to give you my opinion as to the bottom line on the world today and the stuff that's going on the earth today. What we call Illuminati was originally a term which is given to us in Spain to a religious order in Spain that later on were amalgamated into what we call Jesuits. So the Jesuits are truly Illuminati themselves.
And the Vatican, and you go.
Well, that was what I was going to say. Yes, I believe that one of the most evil organizations that exist on the earth today, and you'd have to have spent all the years with me in libraries and researches and traveling around the world and talking to other writers, authors, lecturers, and teachers, and collecting this stuff over a period of 45 to 48 years to understand what I'm telling you. But I believe today the most serious evil organization on the face of the earth is the Vatican. That's my personal opinion. I think if the Vatican was done away with off the face of the earth, there would be a shout of liberation heard around the world. Because the Vatican, in my opinion, is the bulwark of this dark thing that's happening on the earth. So when you talk about Illuminati, when you talk about the really dark criminal stuff that's going on the earth, you're talking the Vatican. You're talking the Knights of Malta, which gave us the 6 men who founded the CIA in America, were all Catholics, members of the Knights of Malta. When you begin to look at the banking fraternities in America, like the Bank of America, Union Bank in California, all of these people who founded these banks and today are running the banking establishment are all Knights of Malta, Catholic Masonry. So when I hear people talking about the Jews this, the Jews that, and the Jews are responsible, no, you better go back and do your homework. The Jews have been slaughtered all over Europe by the Vatican. You need to remember that for at least 2,300 years, Rome has.
So I just want to say something quickly for context, because I know a lot of people are learning, and when they listen to what he just said, some might be confused. There's a big difference between Jews and Zionist Jews, okay? When he says it's not the Jews have been slaughtered, he's not referring to the Zionist Jews in power. The Zionist Jews in power, that's what they do. They set up their own people. The Jews who are loving people like you and I, they do not follow the Talmud, okay? That's a very different thing. I just wanted to say that.
Has dominated Europe under the Caesars of Rome, and in the 4th century, late 4th century, the Vatican comes into being, and the Vatican dominates all of Europe. All the heads of state, all the princes and kings and rulers, all the kings and rulers in Europe rule by the divine right. It's called the divine right of kings. What are you talking about? Who represents divine to give the king the right? The Pope. The Pope appoints certain families to be over the French. The Pope appoints certain people to be over the Germans and over the British. And so by divine right. Why? Because the Pope represents God. And the Pope says that this family is holy and that they should rule. And therefore they can now say they rule by divine right. And once you begin to realize how the Vatican has, for over 2,300 years, Rome has dominated Europe, and in 1,600 years, the Vatican has dominated Europe. And Europe for 2,300 years has dominated the earth. So if you want to talk about conspiracies and you want to talk about evil, don't talk about Jews. You better talk about the people who would control Europe for over 2,300 years, Caesar of Rome, the Roman Catholic establishment. There's the real story. Now you're getting into mafiosi. Now you're getting into the fraternal orders of Freemasonry out of Europe, Knights of Malta. Now you're getting into the organized crime, Sicily, Corsica, and all of the profound drug running, white slavery, murder for hire, Vatican. I mean, even, what was his name, the producer of Godfather? What was his name? Francis Ford Coppola. And Godfather 3, Francis Ford Coppola and Godfather 3, the third one in the series, opens up with Michael Corleone being anointed by the cardinal in New York to be a member of the Knights of Malta in the Catholic Church in New York. What is he telling you? The connection between the Vatican, the Holy Father, there's nothing holy about the Holy Father. There's nothing holy in Israel. Nothing. But I know history. And I know that the most criminal organization on the face of the earth, in my humble opinion, I don't know that much about it, I've just been looking at it for 48 years, is the Vatican. As far as I'm concerned, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to the world, is what's really going on in the Vatican. And that doesn't even bring up the subject of propaganda due, P2, propaganda due, P2 Lodge. That was even mentioned in Godfather 3 twice. There's a Masonic order in Europe called propaganda due. It's called P2. And it's connected directly, P2 is connected directly through membership with Opus Dei and the Knights of Malta and the Jesuits. Jesuits, Opus Dei, Knights of Malta, Masonic Order are connected directly to something called propaganda due, P2 Lodge.
Just so people understand, the other night I was describing how when on Friday the 13th, 1307, when the new French king and the new French Pope hijacked the papacy. They got the Templars to do their dirty work, and then they turned on the Templars and got rid of the original Templars. Well, that's where the Knights of Malta came from. So instead of continuing with the Knights of Templars, because they like to stay in hiding, the Knights of Malta became the Knights of Templars. It's all about that cross. When you see that cross, it's all the same people. They're not just using the cross because they're Christian. That's what they want you to think. That cross, the order of St. John, the like I said, the Knights of Malta, the Knights Templar, these are all the same individuals. So I just wanted to let people know. And the Knights Templar are very much still alive. Tomorrow night when we're on with Corey, I'm going to show you the website. You can apply for membership. Not just anybody can apply for membership. You have to be invited, or if one of your ancestors was one, then they can't say no to you. But this stuff's still very much well alive.
Freemasonry. P2 Lodge of Freemasonry is world famous to people who do research into criminal organizations. And P2 is pure, unadulterated, poured directly out of the trough Nazism. Underworld organizations, drugs, human trafficking, pornography, violence, underworld organizations, all P2. They are the ones who are promoting the right-wing death squads in Central and South America, Mexico, the drug cartels in Colombia. We're talking Catholic, Knights of Malta, drug cartels, Colombia, extraordinary vice on a level which it is hard for most humans to recognize, and it's all being orchestrated out of the Holy Father in Rome. The men who founded our great nation would throw up with this treason, high crime and treason against the state by these people who call themselves America's leaders. I'm telling you, the Vatican has given us the mafia, drug running, prostitution, terrorism, violence, child pornography, all of it.
And the children that are disappearing.
We have been warned throughout history about the Jesuits, from presidents to famous founding fathers. Even H.G. Wells, in his book Crux Ansala, writes about the Jesuits. On page 105, he states, Roman Catholicism is a broken and utterly desperate thing, capable only of malignant mischief in our awakening world. On page 155, he says, I think that it stands for everything most hostile to the mental emancipation and stimulation of mankind. It is the completed, most highly organized system of prejudices and antagonisms in existence. Everywhere in the world, there are ignorance and prejudice, but the greatest complex of these, with the most extensive prestige and the most intimate entanglement with traditional institutions, is the Roman Catholic Church.
Sorry for stopping again, guys. It was funny. Corey just messaged me. I haven't heard from him for a while. He's working. He's a busy guy. He's a big family. He's great dad. He's like, I'm just turning in. No worries, because I said I'm just going to show a video tonight. We'll do our show with our conversation tomorrow night. And the second I said to Corey, we've got sound. Laugh out loud, Miguel. You got sound. So I sorry. It was funny. Kind of had to be here.
It presents many faces towards the world, but everywhere it is systematic in its fight against freedom. And really the organism he's speaking of is the Jesuits. They run the Catholic Church. They have taken it over. And that is the malignancy. Here's an interesting quote by Lord Macaulay in his essays on Ranks, Histories of the Popes, written in 1852. On his page 548, he states, it is impossible to deny that the polity of the Church of Rome is the very masterpiece of human wisdom. The experience of 1,200 eventful years, the ingenuity and patient care of 40 generations of statesmen that have improved that polity to such perfection that among the contrivances which have been devised for deceiving and controlling mankind, it occupies the highest place. in his book, same gentleman, in his book, History of England, he states, the loveliest and most fertile provinces of Europe have under her, Rome's, rule been sunk in poverty, in political servitude, and in intellectual torpor. Charles Dickens, in a book called Life, described popery as the most horrible means of political and social degradation left in the world. Adam Smith, in his book Wealth of Nations, stated, the Church of Rome is the most formidable combination that ever has formed against the authority and security of civil government, as well as against the liberty, reason, and happiness of mankind. Gladstone, in Speeches of Pope Pius IX, states, when the Pope speaks of the liberation of the Church, he means merely this, that it is to set its foot on the neck of every other power. And of course, Charles Chiniquy, in his book 50 Years in the Church of Rome, warned that the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, the Jesuits, had assassinated Abraham Lincoln. And it says, if you read this book, they say that the charismatic movement was actually created by the Catholic Church to kind of bring Christians into their web. It says that it's odd that so many, at a time when so many Catholics are leaving the Catholic Church, you're seeing more and more born-again Christians going into the Catholic Church. You would think that the testimonies of so many former Roman Catholics would be a sufficient warning to these poor deluded souls, but alas, Satan, still posing as an angel of light, captivated the hearts and minds of many. Of course, the root of this apostasy is sinful pleasure, for the charismatic movement allows its followers to do their own thing, with the word repentance being almost absent from their vocabulary. And although these reprobates have been bought with a price, they now deny the Lord, for they have chosen the way of Cain. May God use this message to turn some of these souls back into the way before they come to experience just what Paul meant when he said that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. It's 2 Thessalonians 2:12. A fellow named D. Martin Lloyd Jones, he wrote some books under the banner of the system. Romanism is more dangerous than is communism itself, because this is a counterfeit. This does it in the name of Christ. This is the Scarlet Woman. This is the most horrible, foul deception of all, because it uses his name. Let me warn you very solemnly that if you rejoice in these approaches to Rome, you are denying the blood of the martyrs. There is no difficulty about this. This is a counterfeit, a sham. This is a prostitution of the worst and most diabolical kind. It is indeed a form of the Antichrist, and it is to be rejected. It is to be denounced, but above all, it is to be countered. And Chiniquy did call the Pope the Antichrist. He really felt that this church was the church of the Antichrist. And of course, the Bible kind of describes the Catholic Church when it's talking about the whore of Babylon. J.C. Ryle, in his book, Warnings to the Churches, said, surely when the mind of God about idolatry is so plainly revealed to us in his word, it seems the height of infatuation in anyone to join a church so steeped in idolatries as the Church of Rome, to enter into communion with her when God is saying, come out of her, that ye be not partake of her sins, and receive not of her plagues, to seek her when the Lord is warning us to leave her, to become her subjects when the Lord's voice is crying, escape for thy life, flee from the wrath to come. All this is mental blindness. And he continues on, when Rome has repealed the decrees of Trent and her additions to the creed, when Rome has recanted her false and unscriptural doctrines, when Rome has formally renounced image worshiping, Mary worship, and transubstantiation, then and not till then, it will be time to talk of reunion with her. Till then, there's a gulf between us which cannot be honestly bridged. Till then, I call on churchmen to resist to the death this idea of reunion with Rome. Till then, let our watchwords be no peace with Rome, no communion with idolaters. Well said the admirable Bishop Jewell in his apology, we do not decline concord and peace with men, but we will not continue in a state of war with God, that we might have peace with men. If the Pope does indeed desire we should be reconciled to him, he ought first to reconcile himself to God. And the really crazy thing now is Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope, mind you, and that was illegal, never supposed to happen. He's lining up with the Middle East and saying, come, let's all join together in one unity. Of course, right now it's unity. You have your church, but we're going to be together. But eventually you'll be coerced into being all part of the Roman Empire. It should be no surprise that the communist regimes that march the world, butchering all in its path, when you realize that Marx himself was trained by the Jesuits, people who did the Inquisition for 500 years and butchered everyone that was in their way. It's just an outgrowth of the same disease.
Knows a great deal about the persecution of Christians worldwide. He's Todd Nettleton of the Voice of the Martyrs Radio. So Todd, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us. You've been a voice for the voiceless, and you've helped a lot of suffering Christians over the years. So has the persecution grown worse? Has it lessened since you first started at the Voice of the Martyrs more than 2 decades ago?
I think persecution has increased and certainly in the last 20 years that I've been working at Voice of the Martyrs. And that's kind of the bad side of the coin. The good side of the coin is part of the reason the persecution has increased is because the church in places like China and North Korea and Africa is growing. So there are more new Christians to potentially be targets of persecution.
Okay, let's look at some specific countries then. This year, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo added Nigeria to the list of countries of particular concern. So why do you think Pompeo did that? What's happening in Nigeria?
Well, I think what we have seen in Nigeria over the last several years is the growth of Boko Haram, the number of attacks, the severity of the attacks, and I think really the unwillingness or the inability of the Nigerian government to put a stop to it, to protect Christian Nigerian citizens, particularly in the northern part of the country. I think, the State Department has been watching that for a number of years. They've commented about Boko Haram, and now they're saying, listen, this is a country, as a country, Christians and religious minorities are not safe there. That's why they've designated a country of particular concern.
And North Korea always seems to top most lists as worst persecutor. Has the plight of Christians there improved at all?
So just for context, if people are wondering why this is important now, what he's talking about right now has everything to do with Trump creating this divine court from the Sanhedrin to usher in the Noahide laws on an international level. That's why he's talking about the idolatry and them creating more Christians to set them up, because the Noahide laws, idolatry is against one of them, and capital punishment, beheading, is the result of idolatry. So when they're making these connections and showing you that they're boosting Christians up just to take them down, this has everything to do with what Trump is doing.
Since President Trump reached out to Kim Jong-un, or are we seeing more of the same?
There really hasn't been a significant change in how Christians in North Korea are treated. And the thing that people have to understand is that the Kim regime is built as a religion.
Christians in America have conceded under pressure. I travel enough and interact enough around the world to know that Christianity globally is under tremendous pressure. They're hunting Christians in many parts of the world, and we're not doing that in the States yet.
even an apologist that you had brought up before, I don't recall his name, who even said that the Inquisition was a good thing, that people were begging to be killed. That's absurd.
Well, that was Patrick Madrid, who published his Envoy magazine. He maintains, I was surprised when I read this because I thought the chick was going overboard. But basically, Madrid maintains that the Inquisition is an ongoing duty of the Catholic Church. Which could be rather shocking if you happen to be Protestant like I am. I know you mentioned Alberto died. Didn't you tell me that he said he was murdered?
Well, the story that I hear through the grapevine, he died of cancer, but he reported that